Welcome to Fantomu Artbox. My name is Deborah and this is another sewing tutorial. Now, if you've been following along with me, you'll know that I have two other sewing tutorials. One that is for how to make an apron. The other one is for how to make catnip toys for cats. If you haven't checked those out, make sure to check them out. I'll leave the link up top or I'll leave it in the description below. For this tutorial, you will need to know how to thread your machine and how to do a straight stitch. So if you don't know how to thread your machine, make sure you look up some YouTube tutorials. There's tons of them online for your make and model of machine. So today we're going to be making bowl cozies. Now, bowl cozies are one of the first things you should be learning how to make when you start out in sewing. It's one of the easier projects. They recommend that when you make bowl cozies, that you could put them in the microwave. I've heard this many times. I would not recommend putting these things in the microwave, even if you're using the right materials. So the materials that are correct for a microwave is cotton, 100% cotton, and something called Wrap and Zap insulation for this stuff. Even though, yes, the Wrap and Zap is microwavable, I still wouldn't recommend putting it in there, just because if food gets on the fabric and whatnot, you put it in there and it might burn the fabric or it might burn into the fabric, and you don't want that to happen. So please, please, please microwave your bowl, put it in the cozy, use it for its purpose, which is to, keep your hands not so hot, scalding hot with the bowl. Anyway, that being said, these do make really great gifts, especially in winter. So we're gonna learn how to make that and we're gonna go get started on the project. So here are some items you're gonna need for this project. A ruler, clips or pins, either or work, fabric scissors, little snips, Tailors chalk or something to mark your fabric with, Wrap and Zap insulation, cut out 2 pieces in a square, same thing with the 100% cotton pattern, 2 pieces in a square, and you'll need an iron. Now, the square is determined by your bowl. So it really depends what kind of bowl that you're using. And I'm going to show you how to measure out a bowl so that your cozy will fit any bowl that you have. So we're going to take this bowl as an example. And you're going to take your measuring tape and measure the middle of the bowl from end to end. So you're going to take your measuring tape here and measure it over here. And you'll see that my bowl is 8 inches. So because I know my bowl is 8 inches, and because I know that I need 1/2 inch allowance for, the sewing part of it, you want to add 1 inch to the measurement. So my squares can be 9 by 9, or if I want the flaps to be a little bit more outward, like this one, like a little bit more stylish in that way, you can add maybe 1/2 inch. So you can do 9.5 by 9.5 instead of 9 by 9. Same thing goes for if your bowl was, say, 12 by 12. Then again, your cozy, your square would be cut out to 13 by 13. But again, if you want a little bit more, you could have it 13.5 by 13.5. So it really depends on your size of bowl. For this project, I cut out 9.5 by 9.5 squares, simply because I like the look of the flaps being a little bit more outward. Now the darts, and what I mean by darts are these little creases that make the fold, they make the bucket form. To figure that out with your bowl, you want to take your ruler and measure the height of the bowl. So this bowl is 2 inches high. Because it's 2 inches high, the dart has to be 1/2 inch lower than the bowl height. So it would be 1.5 inches would be the size of the dart for this one. Say if you had 4 inches, it would be 3.5 inches. It's a little bit of math, but again, you're just subtracting 1/2 inch to the height of the bowl. So that's how you figure out the size of the bowl cozy that you're going to make. The one that I am making is 9.5 by 9.5. If you want to do that, that's perfectly fine. This is a Corell bowl, which most people probably know this brand and they probably all have it. So yeah, we're gonna get to the next step in terms of once you've figured out your sizing. So once you've figured out your bowl size and you've cut out your squares, 2 wrap and zap pieces and 2 100% cotton pattern pieces, we're going to quilt the wrap and zap to the 100% cotton. So to do that, we're going to do an X pattern on the square using Tailors chalk. So you want to take your ruler and line it up diagonally from corner to corner, and you're going to draw a line with your Tailors chalk all the way to the end. My ruler doesn't exactly reach the end, but it's okay. So at the end of it, you'll be left with a pattern that looks something like that, which is the X pattern. Now we're going to sew from corner to corner and corner to corner. This is so that we can attach the wrap and zap to the fabric. You're going to have the wrap and zap on the wrong end of the fabric, and you're going to want to clip it or pin it together before you go to the sewing machine. So this is just to keep it in place when you're sewing. You're going to do the same thing with your other fabric, the other piece, and then we're going to go to the sewing machine and sew it. We're going to put this underneath the presser foot, put our presser foot down. When you're sewing across, because we're going to sew from corner to corner, when you're sewing across, make sure you do a forward stitch and back stitch. I was always taught to end off my stitches with a forward and back, just so that the threading doesn't come loose. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go forward, and then I'm going to press the reverse and go back to close off my stitch, and then I'm going to go forward completely. Once you're done, you're just going to want to cut off any excess thread. You can take off the clips, and then just cut off all the excess thread. So once we've sewn out our X pattern on both of our fabric, you're going to want to take your fabric and fold it in half so that the middle of the X is there on the fold line. So it looks something like that. Now this is where the dart comes in, the little part that creates the height. The height for mine was 2 inches, so I know that I subtracted ½ an inch from the height to determine how deep my bowl cozy is going to be. So mine is 1.5. If yours is, say, 3 inches, then it would be 2.5. So you're going to measure from the fold line here, like on the fold, 1.5, and mark off where 1.5 is, like this. So that's where my 1.5 is. Now to determine the other side where it isn't folded, right here, you're going to subtract another ½ an inch. So it will be 1 inch that you're going to measure from the fold line to here on the short side. That way you have in the corner, you have 1 inch this way, 1.5 inch that way. So if you were doing 3 inches for the height of the bowl, it would be 2.5 this way, and then it would be 2 this way. So that's how you determine the dart. But for this bowl, it's 1.5 by 1. You're going to take your ruler and you're going to align it with the 2 marks that you made and draw a line across to join it. You're going to do the same for the other side. So once again, you're going to measure here, and depending on the height of your bowl, whether it be 3 inches, whether it be 2 inches like mine, you're going to measure here. So for mine, 1.5 again from the fold. And then on the open area where the fold meets, it'll be 1 inch for me. And then after you've marked the 2, you're going to join the line. So you should have something like that. And you're going to sew from there to there on both sides. Once you're done that, you're going to fold it the other way and do the same thing on those two sides. So once you've sewn both of the sides, you're going to want to cut the excess fabric, but be sure not to hit the thread that you just cut. Make sure it's about 1/8 of an inch away from that. Use your snips and just cut away. Try to get as close as possible because you know that the insulation is going to probably cause a lot of bulking. So get as close as possible, but don't touch the thread. So it should look something like that. And then when you open it up, the darts are there. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side now. We're going to measure it out. As I said, we're going to measure it out. I didn't measure it out beforehand, but you can do that. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Now that we've sewn the darts on both sides of the bowl cozy, it should look something like this, basically like a little bucket. Now, what we're going to do is put the right sides together with the bowl in bowl. So we're going to do this. We're going to nestle this piece into the second piece so that the right sides are together and the wrong sides are facing outward. And we're going to clip the pieces that are in the middle. So all the darts, we're going to clip them together. And once we're done clipping it, we're going to sew all along here. So let's get some clipping done. And when you're clipping the darts, it's important to put the crease one way and then the other way. It helps with the bulking so that it doesn't bulk too much. And what I mean by that is just like turn the crease thing one way, then turn this one in the opposite direction so that it doesn't bulk too much. And then place a clip on each dart. So we're gonna, this one is a little bit off, but that's okay. Make sure you push down everything. So we're gonna sew along the edge about 1/4 of an inch in. One thing to note is that you do have to leave an opening for us to turn it inside out. So you may want to leave maybe about 3 inches on one of the flaps so that we can turn it inside out in the end. So just like mark down where you're going to leave that opening. This means that we're not going to sew in that opening just yet. We're going to leave that opening open. I'm just going to measure 3. And it has to be, don't put it on the dart. Make sure it's in an area that's kind of straight, the opening. So we're going to sew all along here, 1/4 of an inch in, until we get to this point, and then we're going to backstitch. So we're going to backstitch here and then go forward, go all the way around, and then backstitch back here, and leave this portion open so that we can turn the project inside out once we're done. Lift your presser foot. A key thing to note regarding sewing with this for corners, make sure that you lift your presser foot while the needle is down to make those sharp corners. So I'll show you what I mean in a minute once it gets to sewing. Okay, so we're going to forward stitch, then we're going to back stitch. We're going to go forward a little bit to the corner. Once we get to the corner, we're going to lift our presser foot. We're going to turn the project, and then we're going to put the presser foot down, and then we're going to continue sewing all the way around. So anytime you reach a corner, make sure you do that move. So once you've sewn all around, and you've left your opening, so the opening should be here on one of the long ends of the flaps to turn it inside out. Make sure you snip the corners. This is so that you get that pointy edge on the bowl cozy. And once you've done all of that, you're going to turn it inside out. This is probably the most difficult part of the project because the insulation is very thick. It might be a little hard to pull out, so we'll see. So once you pull this inside out completely, you're going to take your tool, that whether it be a pencil, a chopstick, or something to poke it with, and you're going to go in and you're going to pull out the seams of this project. So anywhere there's a corner, you're going to poke it out as much as you can so that it is nice and pointy. So here's a corner, you're going to want to poke that out. Then there's another corner over here. You can use your fingers, you can use a chopstick, you can use the pencil. Just make sure that you get all the corners out and all the seams sort of out. This is the hardest part of the project, I would say, because it's very difficult to take it inside out from that tiny little hole, and it's also very difficult to poke everything seam-wise out. So once we've turned the project completely inside out, and as you can see, the bowl cozy is reversible, what I'm going to do is iron out the corners, and then we're going to seal the hole that we use to turn everything inside out after we've ironed that seam. So normally I like to fold the fabric a little bit inward and then iron out the seams, and then sew all around the project. So we're going to go do that, and I'm going to start by ironing. So you can start on the side where the hole or the opening is and leave about a 1/4 inch inseam. Forward stitch, back stitch, and then go all the way around. So there you have it, a bowl cozy that is reversible. And hopefully you were able to follow along to the instructions. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below. And if you like the content, feel free to follow along. I think the next tutorial that I'll be doing will either be a pouch or a pillow, and showing you how to do that. I don't know when I'll be coming out with the tutorial, but hopefully sometime soon. For now, I hope you guys have a happy holidays and a great new year, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.